Belleville, Kansas City Council last night. He is a Libertarian in Kansas. And James, why don't we just start off? Why don't you tell people who you are, where you're from, and what the last few days have been like for you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. Glad to see you also did your hair for the interview. I did a lot of work tonight.
Yes.
So we were kind of talking about this just before we went live, but I moved to Belleville, Kansas. I'm originally from here, been gone for 10 years, moved back after about 9 or so years of serving in the Marine Corps, and then also living in Denver for a bit where I was born, and kind of wanted just to experience life. And with COVID and the way everything's happening this year, I said, you know what, I just want some normalcy. I'd like a little bit of quiet. Let me go back to my grassroots, my rural area, and go from there. And right as I moved here, I opened up our city paper that actually kind of serves for the entire north central Kansas region, and it said there's 3 spots open and nobody's applied for our city council. I said, well, you know what, maybe this is that kind of intervention. A little light went off. I could actually do some or affect positive change here. So I went into the courthouse, filled out my application. As right as I'm filling it out, there happened to be 6 more people come in, and they filled theirs out. And I said, okay, now we're in a race. And unbeknownst to me, it was actually nonpartisan, so I had a little bit easier time than some of our candidates, especially at the national level, but even just local and state level positions across the county, and across the country. So kind of got into that a little bit, and I was a registered Republican only because when I registered in 2011, we had Republicans and Democrats in Kansas. That was it. There was no other options. You could be a registered independent. You couldn't really take place in the primaries, couldn't do a lot. And then because there's power number, I said, okay, well, I align a little bit more to the Republicans, but not by much. Even, at 18 years old, I was realizing they were both really pushing for that authoritative kind of platform. They hide behind ideas of either helping people or wanting to be small government, but they're just not executing on that.
Mm-hmm.
So went ahead and as I threw my name in and did all that, I realized that Joe Jorgensen had been selected. Now in 2016, I voted for Gary Johnson, and I was really happy to support any third-party movement that really was putting out a platform I agreed with. They're based on principles. They weren't pandering for voters, and they just wanted to help people. They wanted to actually execute what they were saying. So I said, all right, let me look into the Libertarians here. I've never really wanted to be in a party. I'm nervous with parties. I do like that our national party is moving to a position where it said, hey, one day we won't need this. But today there's power in numbers. So after Joe was selected, I kind of followed Spike for a bit, and I saw the memes, and I said, hey, these are people that are kind of understanding there's a youthful demographic of voters that are either disenfranchised or being reached out by the tiresome two and just turning kind of militant. It's scary, even just the single issue voters. They said, oh, this is my old white guy. He's going to absolutely promise this for me. I said, okay, I'm going to dial that back and look at them. So I decided to double down, got involved in Libertarian Party of Kansas. Huge shout out to that team. They are phenomenal. We're building essentially a platform from absolutely nothing again here in a very heavy red state. And so ran with that, and everybody in town already kind of knew who I was. Like I said, this is my hometown. I just moved back. I had service in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and so had a good standing and some notoriety. And then I got very vocal on Facebook and Instagram. I am a very stubborn, independent kind of person. I said, this is not how the federal government works.
Not a libertarian that would be vocal on social media. I can't imagine.
Right.
I would say so.
And that's when I first learned, actually, you're not even a libertarian until you argue with libertarian. Then you kind of get like this little gold badge and say, oh, okay, these are my people. I understand this. So I did. Yeah. I started getting extremely vocal. I've got the signs all over my truck. I actually sent a photo of that to you, just being one of those weirdos that's like, I came up with a meme late at night, but I had Joe Jorgensen and our senator candidate, and even the two-party system is broken all over my truck because it's a rural area. I'm constantly driving. Why don't we get it out that way? And that's when I learned, oh boy, I live in a community. Average age is 51, heavy Republicans. They're stuck in their ways. This is the way it's always been and the way they'll always be. I may have just opened my mouth and insert foot. But like you had asked, what did I learn from this? Well, as I was talking to everybody, I said, hey, states' rights, even if that's what you're truly believing, you said states' rights over federal rights, and why are you not going out there and supporting this? Because both candidates, by this point, we had selected Joe Biden and Donald Trump to be the tiresome two. I said, why are we looking at these two and saying the lesser of two evils? This is too important. Well, 2016 was too important. 2012 was too important. Heck, 2000 was too important. And so I talked to a lot of the older people. They were really concerned at first. They were like, "Oh, libertarian, you must be a liberal," and that was the conversation every single time. But as I explained, no, individual rights are paramount. We need to look at the true minority in this country, which is the individual. No one more at risk than being completely alone and unafraid floating out there. And as having this dialogue, a lot of the older individuals that we have in the community actually were very open and honest and said, I kind of like this. And I didn't persuade quite a few to vote for Joe. That's okay. We had 43 in the whole county. I'll take that. We got a county 4,600, 43 people voting for Joe. I'm good with that. But to have that open dialogue and kind of move people to the middle and say, hey, we do have another option. We have a better option. We have an option where people are interested in individual rights over the facade of security or just the Patriot Act alone is a big topic out here. Subsidies for failed trade wars, because this is a heavy agriculture area. They were really open, and we had that dialogue. And I even met with some people who supported Joe Biden. We have Democrats here as well, just very few in number, not as small as libertarians, but small enough. And so it's kind of nice to be able to actually have that dialogue. And so what I've learned is if we aren't like the other two, where we don't approach and instantly berate, and, if you don't agree with me on exactly everything, you're not my friend, and unfriend me and all that. If we can kind of reach that middle and say, okay, I'm here to educate and I'm here to learn. And even if you get into an argument or a debate, you can kind of hone the skills that you need, and you can actually hone your own arguments and say, okay, I have concrete evidence that's going to back this. Here's fact and logic. People are actually open to having that dialogue. So here, just in rural Kansas, that's one of the things we're learning, and we have definitely not lost that momentum. The party is jumping out at every which way possible. I think we got another 15 people in western Kansas who are completely alone. They have no idea there's third parties, but they did vote for Joe, and they want to get involved. So it's kind of nice to see everyone's reaching out. You're talking about the directory of saying the different candidates that did actually get elected, and here's how to contact them. Here's kind of their one page where they learn. It's good. I like that people are reaching out. This is the momentum we need now.
I agree. I am a strong believer, especially right now and up through Thanksgiving, especially while the election is still fresh. Me, as an opinion as the party, I think that we should recruit as much as possible. So those of you guys watching, if you're at all interested in getting involved in the Libertarian Party, I highly recommend you go to lp.org/join. And even if you don't want to get involved on the national level, at least check out your state affiliate and, just Libertarian Party of Kentucky, Kansas, whatever state you're in, go search for that on Google, and you can just go get involved locally in your state. Maybe there's a county affiliate you need to start up. Maybe a district affiliate needs to be started up. Different layered structures. Every state has their own setup. So go find out where they need help these days. So, yeah. What was your favorite part of running your campaign this year?
Well, like I said, mine was nonpartisan, so I went out and I bought a bunch of signs from my local sign shop here. I love the idea that shop local, support the independent businesses, things like that. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. And it costs a little bit more, but the quality was fantastic. The convenience of them being there. And I went out, and it was just a public nuisance. Anybody and everybody I could talk to, hey, do you mind if I place a sign here? I've moved back. I don't remember everybody. It's been 10 years almost. What can I do for the community? What can you teach me to serve for you? But also, please just let me put signage everywhere. And I kept a mental note of where my personal signs were, because those are the same people I were going to reach for. Jason Buckley, who was our senator candidate for the Libertarian Party, as well as Joe Jorgensen. If I could get signs out there, that was my entire goal. It's rural Kansas. There's a lot of driving. There's a lot of highway. There's not a lot of large communities. So to be able to reach out to people and just have that dialogue, that's what really kind of stirred me up and said, we can do this, but we have to approach it from, as everyone always says, focus on the lower levels. So I said, okay, I will do that. We have a strong candidate that's running at the national level. She's getting us that exposure. Let's go ahead and finally just hit it on all fronts, unified. I know libertarians would like to argue, but if we can join as a unified front and say we are here to offer a better option and to actually do what we promise, then maybe we can finally get out there and make the difference.
So on what you promise, so politicians are, always accused of making promises. Was your campaign, the city government was going to disappear upon your election? What sort of things, people satirically make fun of libertarians that were just, you know, the whole government's going to disappear and it's going to be a libertarian utopia for all of us. But what sort of things do you think actually resonated with voters in your community, and what sort of things do you think you can actually make progress on for your community as a libertarian in your own personal ideology? I understand it's a nonpartisan office.
Right. So a lot of what had resonated with voters was the fact that here I was a person, younger group, or I guess in the younger voting age, and had moved back to Kansas, which is not happening at all. We really need to get people back here, but that's going to require jobs and housing. And I had a vested interest in this community and said, I do want to help. But I also was bold enough to say, I don't like the two national candidates. There are a lot of people here who can't name our governor in the state, but they can name who the president of the United States is because they believe that POTUS is this say-all, be-all leader for the entire country. And so when we started actually having this discussion, and I didn't immediately tear into them because, you know, maybe they didn't understand a certain aspect from the federal government, we were able to have that conversation and said, okay, now take this, where we're talking about fiscal responsibility, true small government, you being able to make your decisions, and let's look at that at the Belleville level. So we have like an abatement policy where, you know, you have to upkeep your property because we're trying to entice people to move here. When does it end where the government tells you what you can and cannot do with your own property, you know, and why are you renting it with property tax? So these are the conversations we had with people, and there were a lot of people running simply to get rid of the abatement policy or to just change the city ordinances. So I said, well, okay, meet me in the middle here. My end state is to not have a government that comes down and tells you everything in your life. You know, the best government was one that governs least. So maybe I can meet you in the middle here and say, okay, you can keep your property presentable. We're going to look at all these ordinances. A lot of them are over the top and they're 40, 50, 60 years old. Let's dial those back. And if you want to go ahead and absolutely have your property look like whatever you want, build a fence. You know, meet us a little bit for now. I know that we're doing a lot of work with upkeep and especially sidewalks, things like that. You know, this is not a very ADA accessible community. We are a small community, so we don't have a lot of need, but it is important to still have that. And what we can do to encourage tours and things like that. So those are my focuses. We have a dirt track here that's the world's fastest half-mile dirt track. It's been around for 110 years. It's a great aspect. People from New Zealand and Australia fly in August for our events. So it's nice to have that. What can we do to, you know, make sure that we have a nice, clean, and presentable and safe community without trampling on everybody's rights? Because when you buy that property, I view it as yours. It's yours. Do with it as you see fit, right? Your rights go until another person's start.
That's right.
That conversation, it resonated well because people were like, okay, he's not a liberal. You know, he's not telling me everything I want to hear on the conservative side, but he at least understands that for me, this is my right. And then I would go on and tell them, okay, but rights, especially in the Constitution, those first 10 amendments, they're absolute. You know,
that's right.
Ryan has them, I have them, the people down the street, they have them. And it doesn't end, that absolution does not end because their right or whatever they choose to exercise in their right doesn't align with my views. You know, if they want to own fully automatic, which a guy from the Marine Corps, I would love to own fully automatic firearms. You know, we can't go, well, you can't do that because I don't agree with it. That's not how the system works. So this low level change is where we're going. And I'm sorry, a lot of my focus is the federal government. That's my real big passion. Yeah. But I wanted to start here because this is my community. I moved back to open a business. And the fact that I'm able to even just be a part of something that has shaped me so much as a human being is super important to me.
Well, I'm a strong believer of if we're going to have governments, the biggest tyrant that I should have involvement with in government should be in City Hall, where I can go and face them and express my grievances directly to the people who are, you know, handling the issues. It should be in my community where I get to decide what is being done with our town and everything. And I think that it should be as little harm as possible and as little need as possible to protect the rights of the individuals in every community.
Absolutely.
So I think we're in very much alignment there. I appreciate that. So a lot of people are today, the last few days, they may have looked at their ballot and they said, hey, why aren't there libertarians here? Or why is there only one person running in this race? Like, how come it's unopposed? How come they just get a pass because they filled out the paperwork? Or maybe there was vacancies where you didn't even know who the write-in candidate was. What would you say to those people who look at that ballot and are thinking maybe they can fill that? You know, how do they get over that fear of just getting started and going for it?
I think a lot of people are very shy, or they are reserved with politics. You know, as we grow up, we're told don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about abortion, because those three hot topics, that's how you're going to get in an argument. And I think a lot of people shy away from that, and then they develop these ideas when it comes to public office. If they look at the lower levels and go, you have to have this just numerous litany of a list where they have to fill all these different experiences and expectations, and they have to be able to do X, Y, and Z right away. And that's simply not the case. You know, I am a 27, about to be 28-year-old male who served in the Marine Corps. I worked in a grocery store. I worked at Cabela's. You know, that is my life. I haven't even graduated college. I've been there for 9 years, working as trying to become a project manager. You know, so I'm a little out of my wheelhouse here now, looking, instead of being in the armed services, going and being in public office. But I think as long as in your heart and whatever you believe, you know, for me, in my soul, to say, if my intentions are to actually help people, to execute on what I promise, and make sure that, you know, I'm not taking my own biases and imposing my will on other people. If you can abstain from that, remain humble, and work for people, go and do it. Sign up. The only way that you truly lose the election is if you don't even go out and run. You know, Ryan, you'd mentioned like write-ins, you'd mentioned unopposed incumbents, things like that. Well, if you're tired of that, throw your name out there. It is going to be a little uncomfortable. You are going to have those discussions where it may lead to a disagreement. You can only control your own actions. And that's one thing libertarians firmly believe in. You know, that whole personal responsibility, individual accountability. You've got to be able to take control of yourself. So keep a level head, just remain as emotionally unbiased and objective as possible, present the facts, and understand you're not going to reach everybody. But the ones that you do reach, hold them near and dear. You know, we're not trying to be these different groups, cliques, and sects and say, hey, you know, nobody can join us. We're the ones saying, okay, come on, join us. Let's do this. We are kind of the working party. We don't have millions and millions and millions of supporters who fill all these different arbitrary roles that tell you exactly where you're going to be, when, and all that. You know, we're not the tiresome two. We are a smaller party, grassroots individuals, people who are tired and disenfranchised or independent, and they just want to affect positive change. They're the ones that need to go out and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And no election, no position is too small. You hit it perfectly. The local level is where most change does come from. That's where we can really face our public officials, the people who work for the people, and hold them accountable. You can actually talk to them in person. States deciding things. You know, I live 4 hours from the capital of Topeka, and I'm 4 hours from the state of Colorado. I'm in the middle of the country. It's a little difficult to deal with Topeka and say, you know, this is what we should be doing, but I can at least reach my own personal. Now, Washington, D.C. is 1,200 something miles to the east. That's even harder. And I don't understand why they have so much control in people's lives. If you live in Hawaii or Alaska and you are as far as can be from Washington, D.C., or even Guam, it makes no sense that you're going to go, you know what, I'm okay with the system.
Yeah. Yeah, you have no way to withdraw your consent. You can go to your one representative who has who can speak his voice, but to this day, even the federal government, Amash has talked about it countless times. They don't even read, write, discuss, debate, amend, have any open discussion on the floor anymore in either the House or Senate. It's just, here's the bill, sign it. If you don't, we'll run someone against you. And like a bill pops out from lobbyists that's, you know, 10,000 pages, everyone rubber stamps it, and they move on. Like, that's what our legislature has turned into, and we have to stop that. We have to bring it back closer to home, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So, let's see here. I didn't see any questions in here, but what sort of just, you know, not even to the candidate, but just anyone who's been watching on the sidelines, you know, the Libertarian Party, you weren't necessarily aware of the party itself and the structure, but I think you highlighted on this earlier. If you were to go get involved in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party and in your local area, odds are they have like paid positions and people, and like to actually affect much change in that organization and help, you know, advocate for the beliefs you want in it. You're going to have to wait your turn in a lot of things. You'll see they'll be like, no, it's not your turn. This person's put in their time. They're going to run for this position. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And here you might be able to start up the county party yourself and, you know, help guide its direction right away. So any advice to people getting involved locally in their party?
it's same thing as before. Take that first step. Don't be afraid. We need people who are wanting to actually affect that positive change. I'm hopefully here soon, knock on wood, serving as the deputy district, so our congressional district coordinator for the first congressional district in Kansas, just to do that public outreach. Because my city council meetings are the second and fourth Monday of every month. Well, I also have 30 odd or 28, 30 days, whatever you want to add, through the month where I can be involved. And I'm not going to give all of my time. It's a little bit easier. I am a single male. I don't have children. But even those that are married, that do have children, if you're really looking internally and say, okay, I'm unhappy with the way things are going, I think it can do a better job, you don't have to run for office. Just get involved, especially at that state and the local level. Even if you don't want to join the Libertarians, you want to remain an independent, a Democrat, a Republican, whatever the case is, I'm sure we all have our own personal gripes and complaints with how, especially this election cycle has gone. Let's go ahead and work together, meet in the middle and have that conversation. People have described politics and our national, the federal government, the state government, even the locals, as kind of a successful marriage. And it revolves around communication, comprehension, and compromise. If you can meet in the middle and have that level-headed discussion, I'm sure we can accomplish more than just immediately meeting someone and saying, okay, here's my fist in your face, 1, 2, I'm berating you because you either grammatically spelled something incorrectly or you just decided, you know what, I don't like you today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, James, I appreciate you coming on, giving advice to people at this time here. I look really forward to seeing what you do on the city council. Never hesitate to reach out and get a hold of me. And I think we'll have you on multiple times. I want to keep tabs on what everyone's doing across the country to show what good you can do when you remove the government from doing harm as a libertarian. So,
absolutely.
All right. Thank you, James.
What's that? Quick question for you. I saw here in the comments, we had some people that are doing like shout outs from Kansas, like Rochelle Hansen and so forth. I just wanted people to know we do have a Libertarian party here in Kansas. If you search LPKS on Facebook, or if you, even if you just want to search me, it's James Doyle. It's this ugly mug here on as the photo. Go ahead, add me. I'm going to get everybody in Kansas really connected, really that unified front kind of push forward. Jennifer Schaefer's also pointing out the People for Liberty. That is an awesome group. I learned about them just the other day. I was kind of just messaging along with the military supporters section. They have 16 different pages. They have them for independents, Republicans, Democrats. They have them for the LGBTQ plus. I hope I got that correct. I'm still really learning that acronym. But they're reaching out to everybody, and that's our whole goal. I actually end up now as a moderator for the Military Supporters for Liberty on that page. So Jennifer, huge thank you to that. That's a great group. And again, if you're in Kansas, you're in Nebraska, Oklahoma, Colorado, you're in Missouri, you're in the Midwest, and you're looking for a better option, reach out to me. I will get you with your state, because the only way we do this is to do it together. We don't have millions of dollars and supporters behind us. It's just us. And the fight for 2021, 22, 23, and 24 for all the different local all the way to national level, it starts today. It starts now. Let's use this momentum.
All right. Thank you, James. And everyone, keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight out there. And we'll be back with more candidates and elected officials every day that I possibly can. So thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.